This past week has been full of updates on the Alien and Predator franchises with new news and revelations. Alien Earth released a first-look featurette with cast interviews and new footage. There was a new trailer for Predator Badlands, and of course, there was San Diego Comic-Con. We're learning a lot of how each series is moving forward and how they'll be connected as a shared universe. With entries such as Alien Romulus and the Predator films Prey and Killer of Killers, it seems that the demand for even more keeps growing, and a new generation of Alien and Predator fans have been introduced to this world. Where we are right now is crucial. One false move, one bad entry, any kind of universal disappointment could possibly bring them both back to that dreaded radio silence era we once endured after the Disney merger. So, how exactly are things shaping up? I thought this would be a good opportunity to get up to date with the latest we've seen and heard, and we'll take a look at what awaits us in the future of Alien and Predator. Alien Earth is now just under 2 weeks away, and we're getting a lot of updates and promotional material to bring up the anticipation. Alien Earth On-Set Dispatches is a first-look featurette running at approximately 4 minutes in length that plays as a pretty enticing sizzle reel. It includes never-before-released footage from the show and some interviews with the cast and showrunner Noah Hawley. This is purely promotional, so there's nothing especially revelatory here. Basically, they're saying the show is going to be great, it's going to be scary, and it's very faithful to the spirit of the original Ridley Scott film. That's fine and good, but the real point of interest is the new footage we see, revealing a little more of the story, the characters, and the aliens. We've known for some time the general starting point of Alien Earth's plot and its lead character. Sydney Chandler plays Wendy, the first hybrid, a synthetic with the consciousness of a human. She was a terminally ill child and offered the opportunity by the Prodigy Corporation to live on as this new version of herself. We see more of this project and other children becoming the hybrids referred to as the Lost Boys, with Wendy acting as a sort of guide for them. Noah Hawley previously expressed his interest in a Peter Pan allegory, and it's quite apparent here. We see a clip of the children hanging onto Wendy's arms, and she's able to carry them with ease due to her super android strength, and it appears as if they're flying. If not exactly subtle, I could see this as being a sweet moment. We also know that after the Maginot crashes into Prodigy City, one of the soldiers sent in to investigate is named Hermit, a medic played by Alex Lothar. He happens to be Wendy's brother, who thought her to have died since her transformation into a hybrid was kept secret. We see more of her search for him, and we see a reunion between the two. "I found you," she says. It also looks like Hermit has a pretty close encounter with a xenomorph, where he just narrowly escapes the creature by the skin of his teeth. We get a good look at T. Ocellus, one of the other aliens aboard the Maginot that is capable of digging into its prey's eye sockets and controlling the brain. There's a brief clip of the thing in action attacking one of the Lost Boys, so I guess we'll see if synthetic bodies are immune to its effects. There's a slight bit more of D. Plumacari, the killer plant alien. Its petals, or leaves, form a mouth to consume its prey, and that's what we might be seeing covered in blood in this shot. Whether this has some relation to the D. Plumacari or something completely different, we also see some shots of leech-like creatures crawling over some victims. There's a good deal of xenomorph shots in this first look as well. The classic creature surely isn't going to be overshadowed by the other monsters that will be featured in this series. That's for sure, but I'm a little bit iffy on how they look. Maybe it's just the lighting in certain scenes, maybe it's just the tact behind using the practical effects, I don't know for sure. But these are really quick shots, so I think we'll be able to get a more definitive idea on how these effects work once the actual show airs. Overall, I think the featurette did what it was supposed to do, and it did a pretty good job of revealing some new stuff. Then there's the Variety article, released last week, which includes interviews with showrunner Noah Hawley, along with actors Sydney Chandler and Timothy Olyphant, among others. This is a cover story, and what an incredible cover this is. The article has already reached a certain level of infamy and has become a strange detour on the promotional road, specifically in regard to Sydney Chandler. Apparently, she was supposed to be on the cover too, but for some reason backed out. Variety actually tears her apart for this, and makes use of the rest of her portion of the article, painting her as this kind of unreliable, insecure ditz. Social media has responded in kind by viewing her as this entitled Nepo baby who won't play ball and won't properly promote her project and is likely greatly damaging her career. In the article, she's at least candid, saying, "I'm just a private person. I'm new to press. It's a bit out of my comfort zone. I say, fair enough. I say, leave the poor lady alone. Like, really, what are we doing here?" I won't get into the whole article. When it comes to Howley and Oliphant, they are seasoned pros and they talk up the show well. but it's a comment from FX Entertainment president Gina Balian, out of everything here, that has sparked the most concern. From the article. Alien Earth is a brave new world indeed. It abandons plot elements introduced in Scott's prequels and exists in parallel to the film franchise. Everything doesn't have to fit together the way you expect from Marvel, FX Entertainment president Gina Balian says. Fans don't expect that in this universe. It doesn't have the same pressure. Well, I'd argue that a little bit of pressure is a good thing, and you do want pieces to fit together, and you do want a certain level of continuity. I would actually agree, though, that maybe it doesn't have to be Marvel levels of everything connecting together, and you have to keep track of every single plot detail and every character from every entry in order to even somewhat understand just what the hell is going on. I think ideally someone could tune into this show, Alien Earth, and still be able to enjoy it even if they've never even seen a single Alien movie ever in their life. But at the same time, it's ideal that longtime fans won't feel like the series is picking and choosing what it's considering continuity just for its own sake and its own story. Hawley has already been pretty clear about where he stands on the Scott prequels. This was discussed long ago, that he didn't find them useful, and I guess that's fine. I guess we won't be seeing any black goo or engineers in this show, which I'm sure will be the cause for many to celebrate anyway. But not acknowledging certain aspects is one thing, and completely rewriting them is another. So if we end up finding out something that contradicts the history of the Weyland Corporation, for example, I think I would actually take issue with that. We've already had 2 previous iterations of the company's beginnings, and I think it's fair and acceptable to land on Peter Weyland. I really don't think we need a 3rd version for the sake of this show. Alien Earth doesn't have to end up embracing the Scott prequels in a similar way that Alien Romulus did, but I think what has been done should be unaltered and shouldn't be rewritten. So whatever this quote from Balian may actually refer to specifically, we can't really say at this point, but it does raise just a little wariness, though that's been up for a while anyway. I think at this point we're all just about ready to see what this show is able to do. And some fans were lucky enough to see the very first episode already, which premiered at San Diego Comic-Con on Friday, July 25th. This was followed by a 20-minute Q&A panel. Some interesting insights here. Noah Hawley was asked about the new non-xenomorph XX-121 creatures and the decision to include them in this series, and here's what he had to say. If I have a skill at adapting these films, it's in understanding what the original made me feel and why, and then try to create it anew by telling you a totally different story. The one feeling you can't get back from watching the original Alien is the discovery of the life cycle of the creature. How it starts as an egg, and it ends up as a 10-foot-tall xenomorph, and every step along the way is worse than the one before. So the only way to create that feeling was to introduce new characters, and you don't know how they breed or what they eat, and so you get back to that feeling of genetic revulsion that we all felt watching Alien for the first time. It was obviously a huge responsibility to try to follow in the footsteps of HR and Ridley and that team, but I always liked the risk. Some moments of levity were to be found within the panel. The cast was asked what it was like to work up close and personal with a physical xenomorph on the screen. Sidney Chandler. I almost peed. I became a kid again. The xenomorph was in my night terrors as a kid. So then when you're doing night shoots, you're running around at 4 or 5 a.m., and you have a xenomorph, played by our wonderful vegan xeno, Cameron. We all love Cameron, shout out to Cameron. So nice, so terrifying, but to actually have him running at you very fast, I was just giddy. Because I felt the kid in me go, I'm so scared right now, and that's really hard to do on a set. Alex Lothar. Here's a little behind-the-scenes thing. The xenomorph drool is actually KY jelly, so I spent a lot of time covered in that. And Sidney's right, there's something hysterical about the face of this xenomorph, and then he takes off his head, and he's from New Zealand, and he doesn't eat meat. Samuel Blenkin. I specifically asked for no KY jelly to be anywhere near my character. No comment on that, though. We'll see where the story goes. One of the interesting revelations from the panel comes from a question aimed at Babu Sise, playing the character Morrow. I don't recall this being revealed previously, but Morrow is revealed to be a cyborg, though he is an older model sent out decades ago on the Maginot's mission. It does make perfect sense, though, how he could have survived the events on the ship and its eventual crash. The first look featurette also includes a brief moment where we can see he has almost a T-1000-like ability to form a blade out of his hand. This should be an interesting character. I don't know if they were trying to keep that secret for a while, but the cat's out of the bag now. When the fan questions came, inevitably there was an inquiry about a possible new Alien vs. Predator. Holly took the question and gave a fairly diplomatic answer. I don't have any current involvement in that combo package, but I love seeing that Dan Trachtenberg is continuing with the Predator series. What he did with Prey was incredible, this new movie looks great, and my question is, why can't we all just get along? Pretty tight-lipped on that, but also during Comic-Con there was a panel for Predator Badlands. This featured Trachtenberg along with actors Elle Fanning and Demetrius Schuster-Kolomatangi, as well as special effects legend Alec Gillis. That came off to a very interesting start when the moderator, Kevin Smith, revealed that he'd actually seen a rough cut of the movie. He made the very bold claim that it was the best Predator movie he had ever seen, which certainly set the stage. First things first, though, I want to talk about the trailer. It was released last week, and it gave us a much better idea of the movie than the teaser we got back in April. There's more of Dek, the lead Predator character, more of Thea, the android, more of the dangerous planet, Kalisk, and what within awaits the hunter. It also gives us a better idea of the tone we can expect, which is actually more of a buddy action movie, which is kind of surprising. I do think that's such an interesting angle, though, and something very different that I think could play out very well. In the panel, Trachtenberg explains his decision to take the series in this direction. When Prey came out and people dug it, I realized, oh no, I've got to figure out if I'm going to make more of these. I think sometimes when you make a sequel, sometimes the sequel is just the part 2 of the cool thing, not a cool thing in and of itself. So I was hard on myself trying to figure out what would be another essential movie. What's something that hasn't been done in the Predator franchise? One of those ideas was Killer of Killers that came out earlier this year, and the other thing was Badlands. There was another thing I realized never happens, and that's that the Predator never wins. They're supposed to be the greatest hunters in the galaxy, and humans always seem to be very formidable in taking them down. So, thinking about a movie where the Predator wins, I didn't love the idea of just making a slasher movie where the bad guy is the winner. I really wanted to see if there was a way to make that feel like still a really emotional, visceral journey, and one where you can connect with the Predator. So I realized there's this other thing, even more than in the Predator franchise, in sci-fi-dom. We all love the side characters. We fall in love with creatures and robots, and they're often relegated to being the sidekick, or the villain, never the protagonist. So that to me was the bigger deal. I know it's fun to go to a theme park and ride a ride you've done a million times, but there's something really special about strapping into something and going up the tip of that precipice and knowing that you have no idea what's going to happen next, and that very much is Badlands. One thing I was still a little unsure of from this new trailer, though, is Elle Fanning potentially playing 2 roles. I brought this up in an earlier video, speculating that she might be both an android character and maybe a human character, using it as sort of a surrogate to be able to navigate this planet. If only because an earlier release synopsis mentioned that this is the story of 2 sisters. We never really got a sense of that from either the teaser or the new trailer. In the panel, though, Fanning confirmed that I do play 2 parts in the film, but not much beyond that, so I guess we'll see. Another exciting thing about this trailer is that, just in case there was any doubt previously, Weyland-Yutani is a part of this movie. Not a blink-and-you'll-miss-it little Easter egg, but they are a major presence, with their logo everywhere, with one of the main characters literally being a creation of Weyland-Yutani. Trachtenberg also addresses this element when asked how the company fits into the movie and into the larger picture. There's Weyland-Yutani in this movie. I was very focused on there not being any humans in the movie because I knew as soon as we put one in, that's what all of us would start paying attention to, and then we would lose the real pull, which was the Predator as the protagonist. So the next thought was, okay, Predator and a robot. It will be a really human story, but it's about a Predator and a robot. Creature and a robot. And then I thought, I know someone who makes robots. So that was the Weyland-Yutani of it all. And that, of course, leads to even more cool ideas, but I think sometimes people that are dabbling in cinematic universes, there's a seduction to grab all the action figures and smush them together, and I really didn't want to do that. I really wanted to make sure that if we ever do something, it'd be a little bit more elegant. I gotta say, this is the best possible answer I could have hoped for from Trachtenberg. For me as a fan, I think it's plenty to at least acknowledge it being a shared universe. In this case, in a very real, tangible way, where the Weyland-Yutani of Alien is involved with a Predator story. Much more than just a hint or a suggestion or an Easter egg like we got all those decades ago with Predator 2. I like that quite a bit, and I think it makes sense. Do I need to see a xenomorph pop up and fight the Predator? Not really. Should we be seeing more Ian Holm clones running around? Probably not. The company presence is more than enough, and it leaves room for further growth should things continue on this path. But yet again, that leaves us wondering about the possibility of a new Alien vs. Predator movie. Kevin Smith pressed him to reveal something further, but Trachtenberg didn't reveal much. "You are the Predator guy," Smith says, "and if you're throwing in a little Weyland-Yutani, doesn't that mean one day you'll be the Alien vs. Predator guy as well?" Trachtenberg's response: "Wouldn't that be cool?" So we have an upcoming Alien television series that could potentially change the continuity. This could either be in a minimal way, that maybe most people won't even notice, or it could be something severe that leaves us all scratching our heads. We have an upcoming Predator film that is opening up the world, leaving it opportune for any number of crossovers, which would significantly shape things moving forward. There is no doubt that we are at a crucial juncture. Each of these different projects could spell out how both Alien and Predator continue. What are your hopes for each series, and as a larger series as a whole? Are you eager to see some crossovers, like a new AVP film? What, if any, elements of Prometheus and Alien Covenant should stay in place? Comment below and share your thoughts. As always, I'd like to thank you for watching today. I'll be keeping an eye out for further updates on all things Alien and Predator in the meantime. If you want to keep up to date along with me, please be sure to subscribe to the channel, and for more you can follow me on social media. I can be found on X, formerly Twitter, on the account @alien_theory, and on Facebook and Instagram on the accounts @alientheoryyt. I'll see you next time, and until then, this is Alien Theory, signing off.